Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome to the platform Dr. Jason K. Allen, who is the president of Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you, Dr. Floyd and messengers. It is my delight to bring to you a word of update and seminary report this morning. Like the other presidents, I would point you to the book of reports for more thorough evaluation and update on where the seminary now stands. But I want to give you briefly an overview of God's remarkable work at Midwestern Seminary these 3.5 years, and especially this past year. As I bring it as a man who is absolutely overwhelmed by God's grace on this institution, one who is profoundly grateful to Southern Baptists for the stewardship that is mine, and one who is astonished by God's kind providence and unique work on Midwestern Seminary. I have told people in recent weeks that I believe Midwestern Seminary is the most remarkable story of theological education in North America. That's a big, bold statement, but if you listen to me closely the next few minutes, you just might resonate with it. What God has done at Midwestern Seminary is nothing short of spectacular. It's a story of kind providence over this institution. Think with me about where Midwestern Seminary was just 4 years ago. My first day on the job in the office, I met accreditors for our decennial review. No man ought to be greeted on the job for his first day with the decennial review with the accrediting agency. They showed up alarmed over where we stood and ready to give an excoriating report. God worked through that meeting with a committee that, shall we say, was not sympathetic with our convictions or our aspirations to give us a ringing word of support. 4 years ago, the seminary stood hovering around 1,200 students. This academic year, we have enrolled just over 2,300 students. We anticipate next year officially being twice the size of an institution that we were just 4 years ago. In fact, so remarkable is our growth that the same ATS accrediting agency notified me about a year ago to let us know that Midwestern Seminary is one of the fastest growing seminaries in North America, and by the criteria that matters most, they labeled us the fastest growing seminary in North America. This is your institution, brothers and sisters. Additionally, last year I stood before you and announced that over the previous 2 years, Midwestern Seminary had received more gifts and near-term pledges financially than the total accumulation of gifts and near-term pledges since our founding in 1957. Now, I acknowledged then, I acknowledge again this morning, part of that is a story of God's favor on the institution, and part of that is a sign that the seminary did not do much by way of fundraising in those early years. But I stand before you today to give another, even more remarkable word. This past year, our gifts and near-term pledges have actually surpassed the total that I announced last year. Specifically, what has God done? In the mail, unsolicited, this past year, about a year ago, we received a $1 million check from a very dear Southern Baptist layman and preacher named Harold Mathena. In the preceding months, I had bumped into him on a number of different occasions as I was preaching, and every time he said to me, he said, "The Lord is drawing my heart to Midwestern. I want to help." In the blue, we got a $1 million check in the mail, and my brothers behind me will testify that doesn't happen very often. I was about to fly overseas to Korea to preach for a week. I was dying to go visit with him in person and thank him in person in his home in Oklahoma City, but I logistically could not do it. I called him, I said, I would give anything to be able to go thank you and your family in person, but I could not do it at that moment because I was about to fly to Korea. I had a brief layover in San Francisco as I was flying from Kansas City to Seoul, enough time to grab a bite to eat. As I did, standing there in the airport, I bumped into, coincidentally, the son of Harold Mathena. Brothers and sisters, that is God's kind providence on this seminary, not only in the giving of the gift, but in facilitating an opportunity to give a heartfelt word of thank you. In the aftermath of that and through various conversations, the Mathena family have stepped up to help us build a $7 million contribution they have given to help us build a student center for cafeteria, for bookstore, and for basic facilitating and fellowshipping and other needs. We have taken a different tack, quite frankly, than my brother just expressed for Golden Gate. What we are doing, yes, with an overarching sense of stewardship, keeping our footprint small and being intentional about precisely what we have to maintain. But given the growth of our residential community, we have chosen to fulfill the ambition of this seminary since 1957 to have an established student center on this campus that meets the needs of our students, of their spouses, and of their families, and of the collective seminary community. And I thank God for his provision. What do we attribute all of this? The Lord's kind providence. And I believe from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet that God is choosing to bless Midwestern Seminary because of three words: for the church. That is our vision. That is our mission. I have said it every year since I have begun giving these reports, and I shall say it every year henceforth. God has called us specifically to devote our best energies, our full resources, all that we are, all that we have, to serving the church. And listen closely, not just the church generically, not even the church, the evangelical churches, though we love, to specifically ask ourselves daily, how do we most effectively serve the churches of the Southern Baptist Convention? That is a biblical mandate that we have received from Christ when he promised to build his church. And so we're giving our best energies to serving that which he has promised to build. It is an institutional incentive for us from this denomination to serve the churches of this convention, and it is a perennial vision that we have. We will not be updating it on my watch. In fact, the sweetest development for me the past few years has been to see this vision for the church to go from being my vision to being our vision, to being the vision for the Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Who do I thank for in a school roughly twice the size, for financial blessing coming day to day? I thank God for his kind providence, and under God, I thank you, Southern Baptists, who are placing your confidence in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Do we have any questions on the floor for Dr. Allen about Midwestern Seminary? Microphone 5A, would you please state your name, your church, as well as your question?
My name is Michael Turner. I'm from Jonesboro First Baptist Church in Jonesboro, Illinois. I'm new to the Midwest, and I understand, Dr. Allen, you are kind of relatively new to Midwestern. I've been looking into whether to go to Midwestern or another seminary to pursue another degree. And as I did some of that research, a little bit of the hearsay was that if I didn't hold a more Calvinistic, Reformed view of the salvation process, that I might not feel as welcomed at Midwestern. And I was just wondering how you and others would help me to feel as welcome there as someone who believed differently than me. And please understand, I don't ask this question with a divisive spirit. I seek unity in this question.
Sure, happy to answer it. You have not asked it in a divisive spirit, nor have I received it in one. We are an institution committed to the churches of the Southern Baptist Convention. We have one confessional statement that we hold to proudly, unequivocally, and confidently. That is the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. Additionally, as supplemental confessional guidelines, we've also adopted the Danvers Statement, Biblical Manhood and Womanhood, and the Chicago Statement on Biblical Inerrancy. To answer your question specifically, we are seeking to serve the churches of the SBC and to hire the very best faculty under God, under that confession that we have. We are not counting points. We do not intend to count points. I will tell you this with full integrity. I will not hire a man, whether he's a 0-point Calvinist or a 9-point Calvinist or any point in between, who is not fully committed to sharing the gospel, not fully committed to the Great Commission, and not fully committed to serving the local church.
Amen.
If I may go on, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
I say that, can I continue?
Sure. Wow.
I say that not merely as a talking point, but as a pledge to these messengers. We have on our faculty and on our campuses students, men and women who represent a variety of points on the spectrum. We do so happily, cheerfully, and welcoming of the students that come. And I believe if you talk to faculty and staff and students, brother, I would say to you, I believe they would corroborate what I've spoken to you in the messengers this morning.
All right, thank you, Dr. Allen. Do we have any other questions? There are no other questions. Would you please give God the praise for Midwestern Seminary and Dr. Jason Allen. We welcome to the platform today Dr. Paige Patterson, President, Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Would you welcome Dr. Patterson here today?